Hi, welcome to Chat with Cody. My name is Cody Reynolds. I am running for Congress in Oregon's 6th Congressional District, and today my guest is Justice Laub, an esteemed digital and media artist whose specialty is paint on canvas. Welcome, Justice.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, I guess we'll just jump right in. You have a fascinating story, Justice, about your life and how you came to be an artist and your current path. Care to tell us about it?
Sure. I'd be happy to share. I'm gonna go way back on the short yellow bus that I used to go to school on. Do you want me to go to that place or?
Start wherever you like with you. It's your story, Justice. We
That's
just want to
true.
hear it.
All right, that's fair. Well, so I have a learning disability, and this when you have one of these, students get these things called IEPs, which are individual learning plans. And that's when the school system kind of says, we don't think this person can learn with a standardized way of learning. And because, all people are unique, everyone's different. And anyhow, basically, so I used to go part of the time to public school, and part of the time I would get picked up at recess on the short yellow bus and taken to another school paid for by the state. But, I think that on top of learning systems, there's also an issue around, emotional guidance and support for children and for adults. Anyway, I feel like that was like really hard. I didn't really have my finger on it at that time. But anyhow, so I'm going through school, and then I really just felt like I didn't fit in at all because I wasn't very coordinated and couldn't really be playing sports that well, but I was always interested in collaborating with people and looking for an opportunity for success and just wanted to belong. And I went all through the different schools, all the way up through high school. And then within high school, I was in a kind of like a special school within a school. And then I had some classes with the other kids. I'm not really sure if they were aware that I was in this other kind of program, but I always felt really left out, and I just wasn't able to kind of connect with knowledge the way that my mind wanted to. And you always hear, as you become an adult, people arguing over these issues, but I think a lot of people don't really take the time to understand them. So it's just some kind of talking point of education or some talking point on learning. And I think that because of that kind of past negligence from a lot of different people in the school system, politics, different stuff like that, it created this kind of alienating growing up system, although I had a couple of good friends. And
So, could you tell us more about how your disability manifests itself?
yes, sure. So my reading and writing is still today at a fifth grade level. So even when I'm talking with people and everyone on communicating over text, I always do talk to text, and then I select stuff, have it read back to me, and I have a hard time with it's kind of weird because I know what I'm supposed to do, but if I try to write something on a straight line, the hand just won't allow it to go in a straight line.
And anybody who's familiar with your art can
Can verify
can
that.
verify that. But there is majesty to that. I have a piece or two of yours, and it speaks to me, and there's no doubt about that. Um, so this disability, obviously, it made it difficult for you to get through school, and it created this this system where you were apart but apart. How has your learning disability, or how have you overcome?
Yeah, that's a good question. In a lot of ways, I was really fortunate to have different people around me that believed in me along the journey. And one of the things I have in the learning disability that I've kind of changed now into calling it a learning difference. but either it is a learning disability, but something that it has been empowering, I guess, with it is that when there's kind of a traditional system around, reading and writing, people don't really realize, I mean, they may realize it's probably not on top of mind how important that is, like driving, you have to read every single sign really quickly, and it can be confusing for a person like myself, and just dealing with forms and a lot of life. But what I've came to realize is I ask people for help, and like there's that kind of thing where, before GPS stuff was so readily available, you'd be driving and there'd always be people being like, I would always be the person to be like, let's stop and ask the gas station, or let's ask a neighbor, or let's ask a random person on the street. I ask for help, and there's actually a lot of resources available and people are much nicer. That's the thing of why I have hope around humanity, because I have asked people for help in life, and I ask people for help on small, tiny things all the time. And I don't find it to be, anything to be shameful about. And I also feel like like I never let a locked door be a wall. I always find like a way to open it, a way to go around. Just because I might have certain areas that aren't as strong as others, I always look for a way to, go over an obstacle.
I mean, you have had many obstacles, placed in front of you in your life, and your story is actually quite remarkable because, in addition to your art, you've had many successes with your various business endeavors, and that's how we met, right? Like through a shared associate who also is a very successful person.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about some of that early life where Justice was figuring out his life and his career, and so
Totally.
people can have a feeling and an understanding that, like, despite
Yeah.
those obstacles that are placed in your way, there are ways around them and through them, and to work with them.
That's true. That's a really important thing. So when I was first getting started living in Los Angeles, I ended up being a bike messenger at Paramount Pictures, which was on lot, a really fun experience, and I had a mentor. I believe in mentors a lot, that told me you always have to ask an apple tree for an apple. And I think that, to me, I interpreted the meaning of that as, you have to ask people for what is easy for them to give you, not necessarily what you want as your end of the line goal. I think that a lot of times people are like, can you help me become a professional athlete? It's like, maybe it would be better to say, hey, can you help me learn how to throw a ball better, or whatever it is that the person's trying to do. So for me, I went through, biked all around the lot, learned all about how the studio system worked. And I ended up meeting this consultant who told me that they were spending several $1 million trying to get into a thing called interactive marketing. And I just kind of tucked that away in my brain. And I was like, oh, well, how do you guys measure that? And this person was like, oh, we're just looking for ways to spend the money. But it was so far away from my reality at that time. I just took that knowledge point and I was like, all right, well, there's people in this industry that are looking to spend money and can't even find a way to do it. And I was like, that's interesting to me.
Maybe I could help them.
Yeah, maybe I can help them, because I had always grown up with these very limited options, with the feeling that I had limited options because I was lacking in some way. And as I started opening up my eyes and realizing there's infinite options and there's tons of ways to get there depending on, how you focus. So anyway, I ended up having a roommate, and he was working as a consultant at E! Entertainment. And he was a JD MBA and best-selling ghost author, and he actually lived in Orange County with his fiance at the time. And he rented this room in this 2-bedroom apartment I was renting, but just to kind of have as a place when he was in between consulting to have lunch and stuff like that. So I ended up, not the proudest moment, but due to youthful hubris, I got highly offended at Paramount when they gave me a 5 cents an hour raise. So I just had to quit in the middle of the day, which was a very, but poor decision as a youth. But I ended up saying goodbye to all these people. And later on in life, when I made friends with all these executives, they were like, it was so funny when a bike messenger came around shaking our hands, saying it was good to work together, but everyone was very cordial and friendly. But anyhow, I came home that day to find this roommate, told him the story, and he said, hey, let me take you under my wing and teach you how to be a consultant. And that was a really big day that really had a big impact in my life.
That's it's those moments that you have in your life where you make a decision, whether it's the right one or the wrong one, but it changes the trajectory of your life. Uh, so this is the moment that you look back on and you say, "This is when my life changed."
I do. I used to, I see this as like when the road opened and I started, he knew about the learning disability. He said, you know what, it's okay. Just bring a piece of paper and a pencil and draw pictures and do little notes and listen. And what ended up happening is we realized that, and obviously that we weren't the only people to have this discussion for a media company, but the conversation that was being had was around smartphones. And it was just basically thinking through, well, there's going to be less internet. People are going to be looking at their phone for a shorter period of time. Maybe we should do large photos, large text with just kind of headlines. And just as simple as that can sound, in a business setting, thinking about adopting new technology, that's like a year of thinking with thousands of people. And I think one of the mistakes that people sometimes make is wanting to think about 5,000 ideas at a time. Mm-hmm. Huge companies can think about one idea and making it really simple, really understandable for everyone.
And with that, it makes it easily executable, or at least easily communicatable.
It does. And that's the thing that a lot of people sometimes feel slighted. I've heard they'll be like, people aren't taking on my ideas. Well, big companies have kind of a core competency, mm-hmm. and then they make slight changes that are, well thought out, hopefully. But anyhow, so I really learned how to be doing the consulting with him, and it was just I had a whole bunch of fun because I've always been good with speaking and thinking quickly, but I always had felt like I couldn't do these jobs because you have to fill out this application, where did you go to college, all these sort of things. But because I was a little bit afraid to go in these rooms when I was like 20 years old, 21, with all these people with these big degrees and, all this kind of establishment stuff going on. And I was kind of scared.
So at what point in your career did you meet our mutual friend?
Well, you fast forward a little bit, and I started a guerrilla marketing company named Strange Arcade. And we started working with BCBG, traveling all over the world, working with Green Day, working with this channel called IMF, not the monetary fund. And we were doing all this guerrilla marketing stuff. And then we started working with this guy named Mark, and he had this thing called the Cobra Snake that I later merged Strange Arcade in with Cobra Snake. And this is at a time when it was kind of before social media proliferation, or I can't speak properly, but before social media had a full takeover. And this guy, Chris Mortimer, our mutual friend, who is like the top boss of marketing at Interscope. So he had all these, all through the years I was watching him have all these musicians around, and the company we had put photographers with musicians, and this is before branded content was really huge. So we were like, hey, before bands and musical acts were paying for photographers. So with this company, I was like, hey, why don't we hire a whole army of photographers, send them on tour with musicians for free, and then have brands pay us to put their content in the photos, then give away this high quality behind the scenes content for free to blogs. which then create a distribution model, and it becomes like an ad network with content built in. So that was kind of like the meat and potatoes of this company, and through doing that, I ended up making friends with Chris. I made friends first with this guy named Ryan Wilson. Later, Thank You X is his art name, and he's one of the leading voices in the digital art space, but he's spent his life as an artist and as a graphic designer. And when I had the marketing company, we worked together on doing the marketing for Katy Perry's movie. And I believe he worked, well, I can't remember. I did Paranormal Activity, the first movie. I can't remember if he was involved, but he very well may have been. But we've worked together for years, and he opened up the door to Chris. And then one day Chris said, "Hey, I really want you to meet Cody." But he said, this is a really important relationship to me. And he's actually never introduced me to anyone before. He takes relationships. He's introduced me to work people, but there wasn't like a direct work reason for us to meet. He just said, "Hey, I think you guys would really enjoy being friends."
And you have added tremendous amount of value to my life since.
Thank you.
And your art, like I said, it speaks to me, it inspires me, and the time that we have spent together, I have enjoyed, and I look forward to those moments like today when you and I can be together and to talk, and especially to talk about your story, because your story is inspiring. I did not grow up with a learning disability, but I did have obstacles to success. I think we come from a place where nobody really expected either of us to make it.
No, I don't think so.
No, people would look at us and they would say,
they're going to work at a gas station, and there's nothing wrong with a gas station. In fact, I wish I owned a few gas stations, but there's...
and I wouldn't say that, but you and I objectively are successful people.
Right, we are.
In our chosen fields. You're a celebrated artist, and I have created enterprises. And that success is, I think, a testimony to our grit and our ability to build and maintain relationships. One of the things that you said while I was letting you speak was the way organizations are, business organizations are changed, right? They're not changed through drastic, multiple, complicated ideas. You make small changes and you see how they affect, and that's a business organization, but that sort of application of that idea applies to the government, because the government is also a large, complicated organization, more so than even businesses, because there are so many elements to government, and everybody wants to go into government and change everything all at once. And that's a recipe for disaster in any organization, but especially in an organization as large as a local, state, or federal level entity. So
absolutely,
I think the path towards affecting positive change isn't through drastic ideas. It's through small, great ideas that people can agree upon. Because they're good ideas.
I agree.
Yeah,
I really agree. And I think one of the really important things around those ideas and how to change them is knowing who to listen to and when to listen. And sometimes, I'll go into a situation thinking that I'm going to go there sharing my knowledge with someone else. And the other day, a person I deeply respect, who is a PhD artificial intelligence, tech guy, invited me on a hike to discuss art around artificial intelligence, but the focus on art. And I had really gone in there thinking, hey, I'm probably going to share a whole bunch of things, and I think he did too. And by the end of the talk, it was very apparent that I had done a majority of the learning. And, that time it lends itself to, of course you learned from this, well-educated person. But there's other times I go into situations and it'll be a large group of people, and, it'll be a big discussion, maybe advising a company. And sometimes it's the intern in the room that has the best idea. And I think that one of the biggest skill sets you have as a friend and as a leader is the ability to know who to listen to and how to listen and take in knowledge.
Thank you. It's not a, I mean, it's a skill, I suppose, but it's more born out of curiosity for me. Like I am genuinely curious about people and how they think and what motivates them and what they need, because no two people are the same, no two organizations are the same, no two problems are the same. A lot of the solutions you can apply at a individual level, one piece or two pieces that have worked in previous problems, but every situation is different, and you need to be able to identify uh, a course of action that will end up with a result that you are looking for. And I think that is also something that I'm pretty good at.
I think you are. I think you're really good at it. In fact, when I met you and I saw how you operated with people, it really reminded me of this guy who was actually hired me a lot in the past. It was kind of like a mentor. This guy, Max Azria, who's no longer with us, but he had founded this fashion company called BCBG. When I was in my 20s, I was on this trip with him in Tokyo, and he was like always talking about listening and empowering people, and just kind of the way that he operated with people, the way he built his empire. When I saw you operating with people, I said, if Max was around today, I'm sure he'd want to be your friend.
Well, coming from you with the kind of people that I know to be your friends, that is probably the highest compliment that I could receive. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no, please continue.
Oh, I mean, one of the other things is it's not just for me with art. It's not just looking at different people in positions of success or looking who to listen to, but also being able to listen to ourselves, and taking time to think. And that's one of the really important things for me that I do with the art is coming up with a concept and then also saying, how do we look at problems? How do we look at different dimensions? How do we accomplish, overcoming things within ourselves, but also coming together with a variety of people who are our community, who are our friends.
So going back to your art, was art a big part of your education as a child? Or how did you fall into, is it just something you always did? Or is it something that you developed a passion for?
It's a great question. I mean, I had always done art, but I had always been, yet again, I had been afraid of, when you're doing art, you're really putting your soul out there and you're really putting your feelings out there to the world. I didn't have enough confidence with myself to be saying, hey, I'm going to be a professional artist. And I ended up kind of accidentally becoming a marketing guru and I don't know.
Marketing guru, you effectively invented branded content as a field of advertising. That's
yeah. Well, however you'd want to say it, but developing markets and identifying new business possibilities I actually find business almost to be like an art with people and putting people together. But the whole time I was doing that, I've been doing drawing, painting, and then it actually wasn't until a few years ago that I was working out of this think tank and doing a whole bunch of art and painting there, and all these people started coming in and buying it from me. And then I was like, wow, I can paint, put out artistic philosophy and poetry and have people want to have it in their house, which is a really nice honor. It feels great to have you as a collector and having and I haven't sold art to one person so far that I haven't genuinely had a good connection with.
I think that's important, for you, because, you put so much of yourself into your art. I will treasure the pieces that I have of yours for a very long time, until I die.
Thank you. I hope that's not for a long time.
I hope it's not for a long time either. I've got a lot of work to do, Justice.
You do. I mean,
I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for being who you are, the person that you are. You have added value to my life, and I hope that I have added value to yours. And I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about your story, because it's not the typical story, and it's not the one that most people would expect someone to share in a venue such as this. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me and allowing me to talk about my life. And right now I'm an artist in residence at this place called Scenic Advisement, and there's just an amazing group of people. But when I was flying up here this morning to be on your show, I just wanted to tell all the people in your district and all the people in Oregon that see this that Cody has my endorsement as a friend, as a politician. We would all be lucky to have him. I hope that we can get him elected. He has the skill set both from your childhood and also from, your service to this country, which I deeply value, to lead and to be able to make the changes we need in a realistic way, and I think that's really hard to find. And it's not just that you like to support other people that are exactly the same as you. You like to reach across the way and connect with everyone in every walk of life, because I've seen from Cody, you like to help other people have the opportunity for success. So what more can we want for our leaders?
I'm blushing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's those things that you do that you don't. How do you communicate that sort of thing? It's when you say it out loud, you're like, yeah, I'm like, yes, that is what I do, and what I have done is just, it's not this. You've got me flustered.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. I mean, it's sometimes hard to receive compliments when you're often the person giving them, but I am your friend and I do support you. Otherwise I wouldn't be here right now.
I really, truly appreciate that, Justice. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Chat with Cody. I am Cody Reynolds. I am running for Congress in Oregon's 6th Congressional District. And thank you for listening to this podcast and joining us with Mr. Laub, Justice. You can find him on Instagram at Good Energy. Look at his art. I find it inspiring. Maybe you will too. I hope you guys all are having a wonderful day, and thank you for your time.